there it goes. Man, I've only tried to start this thing 3 times now, and it just keeps doing this and this and this and this. Anyway, how's everyone doing today? I'm super excited to have on board today John Logan. He is... I'm going to let him tell his story because he tells it way better than I do. He has a pretty freaking amazing job in my hometown, Salmon, Idaho. He's taken on a project that, to me, is just stupendous. And I'm really excited to hear more about what he's doing, why he's doing it, his vision of what that's going to look like, so that hopefully we can continue to grow his audience for the projects. It's not just one project, his projects that he's working on. So yeah, we're just going to wait for him to jump on here. In the meantime, if as we're going through this, you like what you're hearing, you like what you're seeing, then please invite other people to come on. Please invite other people to be a part of this, because I'm hoping to just expand more and more on what people are doing and how they're doing it. Suzanne! Suzanne! It's been a long time. I worked with her in Germany, and I'm telling you guys, never ever play foosball with her. Never play foosball with her. Unless, of course, you want to look like a complete fool and get schooled from the moment you start playing. Just saying. Because, yeah, if I remember correctly, she put herself through college playing tennis. So, yeah, I thought I was a pretty decent foosball player until so John's working some technical stuff out. So as soon as he gets that figured out, then he'll jump on here and we'll be all good to go. So, with that said, what else is going on? My big push right now is I really want ping pong. You're right, ping pong. I said foosball, didn't I? I said foosball. My bad. Yeah, ping pong. She's right. Because you know what? I'm a little upset with you because I played foosball, she played ping pong, and she would never play me in foosball. She would just whoop my ass in ping pong, but she'd never come and play foosball. I see how this is. So going forward, what are we doing here and why are we doing it? I'm being I have been very influenced by a good friend of mine, long friend, Jennifer Quinn. She has a show called The Jenny Q Show. And for the past many, many years, she has interviewed some of the most influential people in business and marketing and in life in general. And she's really influenced me, and I want to take that on as well, because there are people like John that just jumped on. Hey, brother, John's going to jump on here in the next couple weeks, and we're going to talk about what he does. And really, we're also going to be talking a lot about body language and what nonverbal communication can mean in his business. So, John, I'm super thankful that you're willing to jump on and do that, brother. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't talked to John. Oh, man, John, how long's it been since we actually sat down and just BS, man? It's been years. You've got a phenomenal career, brand new married. I'm super excited for you on that one. So, yeah, that's going to be an awesome, awesome show. And as soon as John, my other John Logan, decides that he's got his tech figured out, then we'll do that. So, all right, John, sounds like he's all good to go. So, brother, just accept my invite, and it'll plug you in, and we should be good to go. Man, I miss you too, Mayhew. I really do. You know, Mayhew and I, man, we had a lot of long nights of just talking about life. And, yeah, I miss it. But, John, you know, the thing with Mayhew, though, is that he breathes a different air now. You know, he's succeeded so much beyond where I'm at, that, it's hard for me to breathe the same air, brother. It's hard for me to speak the same language anymore. So I don't know. This might be interesting when we sit down and talk. He's probably sitting there cussing me right now, going, "That son of a crazy." Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, Logan, I thought he was on. Let's make sure I did this right. Did I request? Let me make sure I did my part right. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I'm still figuring all this out. Okay. I appreciate that, Mayhew. That's very flattering, man. That's very flattering and humbling. I appreciate that, because this dude, I'm excited to hear more of what Mayhew's story is, because he's a mortgage guy, and he's taken his business and he's just shot through the roof. So I'm super excited to hear more about that. So, all right, Logan, what did I do wrong? Where are we at? I kind of feel like I'm rambling here trying to work this out. So, Logan, at the bottom of this video, there should be a picture, like a picture in a picture. Here we go. Maybe. I think so. Is it going to make me a liar? Yeah, I love new technology, especially to it all out. Hey, there you are. Can you hear me?
Maybe.
Yes,
I think so.
I see you.
Sweet. I'm glad that that's working. I tried to use an actual computer, and I can't make that work. The phone apparently is working all right, but the actual computer that I'm sitting in front of, I can't find the right set of buttons to push to actually use a computer. So whatever, we'll do it on a phone, I guess.
Were you just going, Dude, I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for taking time out of your freaking crazy life to BS with me for a few minutes.
Well, I gotta let my phone catch up to what you're saying, apparently. That's really odd. But we're all right, I think.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
No, you're coming through really garbly, so I don't know what that means for us, but we'll try to figure it out.
All right. You know what? This is my third one of these. Third one that I've done, and so far I've had one that's worked. The rest of them we've had just technical hiccups. So we might be starting this over again. I don't know. Now you're all frozen. We'll figure this out.
Okay, I think maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah, okay.
Maybe?
We're good. We have a slight lag now, but we're good. All right, now you can ask me questions and I'll... You know what you're doing.
We are professionals.
Right. Working as intended.
Right.
Working as intended, I'm sure.
Well, intended and reality can be completely back-ass words.
All right, so how you been?
So, hey,
I've been watching this series of interviews. I did my homework. I went and I watched the interview you did with Juan, so that was good. It didn't help me prepare at all, I don't think. But hey, I like this series of interviews that you're doing. I find them really impressive. So go ahead. You're the interviewer, so all of the pressure is on you.
Well, yeah, thanks for just, building that up to say, okay, now go. All right, first off, all right, John, who are you? Now, I got to premise this, because if I open this Pandora's box, John's going to be bullshitting us for an hour and a half, right? Exactly. So I gotta premise this. Okay, so what are the two main things, other than having an amazing family and an amazing wife and 73 kids and everything that goes along with that, is what are the two main things you're working on when it comes to your business and creative outlet?
All right. So what I do is, for those who don't know me, Dale and I grew up in the same giant piece of real estate in Idaho that contains one very small town. So Dale and I go way back, and as per usual, we lost track of each other for a good chunk of time, and then thanks to technology, we've reconnected recently, and we both tried to do a lot of catching up. And I'm totally impressed with Dale, and I'm sure he's totally impressed with me. So I'm back in Salmon, Idaho. And that's really a unique opportunity for somebody as young as I am, and as young as I'm old, but whatever, comparatively young in this town. I've had a really good set of opportunities to give back to the community I grew up in, and that is super important to me. It's the reason I moved back, was to find ways to give back. I've worked for a couple different places in town here, and now I've settled into what I hope is going to be a long-term gig with the Lemhi County Historical Society Museum. And it's my challenge and my opportunity to figure out how to make that museum viable going forward. Museums are in a real crazy place right now. They're out there with libraries, and they're out there with other nonprofits that they have to work harder to maintain viability. They can no longer just coast along on the status quo. We've got to be doing outreach with our community. We've got to be reinventing the wheel as far as museums go. And so that's my daily grind. That's my daily opportunity. I get to get up and figure out ways to make an institution that is always just sat on the corner of Main Street viable for my community and make them want to basically ensure that I get a paycheck. So that's my real job, and I really enjoy it. And again, there's so many new opportunities for museums. It's just an uphill walk to enact them in this small of a town. I deal with a lot of crazy stuff simply because Salmon, Idaho is so isolated. Go ahead and find it on a map. It's super exciting where I live.
Good luck.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my everyday job. That's what I get up and get to do. And it's awesome, and I love it, and I get goosebumps talking about it, so I know I'm in the right place. The other passion that I have here is comic books, right? Like, I got this. I had to wear a comic book t-shirt today because I'm live on national TV or something here. So yeah, comic books. I love this industry, which is interesting because I grew up in Salmon, Idaho. At the time, there wasn't a comic book shop. And I lived far enough out of town, I wasn't reading comic books that our local library had available, which were few and slim and always checked out by other people who were into the biz. So it wasn't until I left, it wasn't until I went down to Las Vegas and had the opportunity to have a local comic book shop that I got into this collecting and what is this pop culture? And at the time, when I graduated in 2000, comic books were still way under the radar. It's nothing like it is now. Now, everybody's wearing comic book t-shirts. Everybody's wearing comic book hats, comic book backpacks. Like, when I went to school, that was just a way to get beat up. Like, it's totally changed, and a lot of things are into that. But our subculture of pop culture has now become the mainstream pop culture identity, and it's amazing. It's changed the industry. It continues to affect every aspect of how that very small industry that is pushing 80 years now is suddenly having to deal with all this new crazy stuff in it, affecting it. And I find it fascinating and exciting, and I love the stories, and eventually I would love to help create stories in that medium. So that's who I am. Those are the two things I do.
It's small box, very small amount of time there. Okay, so I gotta say this though. So John and I caught up, what was that, 2-3 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, do you have a couple minutes? I'd love to talk to you on the phone. Here's kind of what I'm working on, yada, yada, yada. Both of our wives basically kicked us off the phone an hour and a half or 2 hours later. They're like, would you shut the hell up? We gotta put kids to bed. We gotta get stuff done. So I went to school more with your sister than you, because you were a couple years behind me. but I mean, through 4-H and everything, that's really where our commonality was, you know.
DJ Max, everybody, DJ Max, right there.
That was a long freaking time ago, man. I DJ'd. You know what? I was thinking about this the other day, man. My senior year in high school, I DJ'd all but 2 dances in our entire high school.
Yep.
I did all.
Yep.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy, and it's funny how
I was a roadie.
And you kind of mentioned.
Hey, freshman, haul this shit in and out of the high school for me. Oh, okay, now.
Pretty much. Hey, I have this really heavy thing. Go grab it, will ya? Okay. So, and now we're planning our 20-year freaking class reunion for this summer.
That's awesome.
It's nuts. So let me ask you this, man. With the comic books, it's very mainstream now, especially with Marvel's brand new trailer that just came out, yesterday or today?
Yep.
So that's easy to talk about, but museums, what the hell? You know, I just moved from Maryland, so of course we had the Smithsonian's, and we had all of the history of our creation and everything from that when it comes to the United States. So that's kind of easy to go on. But for those who don't understand what Salmon, Idaho is, what's the population of salmon right now?
Oh, same as it always is, waiting on the mine. 3,000. I mean, it's always right there. It might. Yeah, ish. The population maintains, it's just the demographic of that population. So there's way fewer young kids, way fewer working family units, lots of older retired people, which makes my job at the museum seem easier, right? That's my demographic. But my challenge is to actually engage people my age and younger. But there's not enough of us here to engage. Like I'm struggling to be like, oh, you are not over 60. Would you like to be involved in the museum? And they're like, I've got a full-time job and 3 kids. How am I going to donate time to your nonprofit? I'm like, we will make that work. Just let me engage with a younger generation to provide sustainability moving forward. My curator is 83.
So what's your...
It's like what happens if I don't get a plan of succession, if I don't figure stuff out? What happens when that curator can't come to work anymore? And that's a terrifying thing that we deal with every day because there aren't best practices put in place.
So what are you working on to bridge that gap then? In a community, and let me finish real quick. So people understand the isolation of salmon. You know, and we make it sound like it's some armpit in Alaska or Antarctica or whatever, right? But at the same time, salmon, the next closest town, not city, the next closest town is 58 miles away. 58 miles away for the next town and it's not even of any size. And Chalice is going downhill as well, population base wise. The next city would be what? Hamilton, Montana, or Idaho Falls?
Yep, 2.5 hours either direction.
Exactly. So there's literally 3 roads in, 3 roads out. And there have been times when all 3 roads are closed and you can't get in or out. So that shows the isolation of the community that you're in. So how are you trying to bridge the gap between the older generations and the younger generations in such an isolated situation?
Mostly it comes down to visibility, at least for me. The museum can no longer be, and this goes for museums everywhere, but the same is true for salmons. Museums can no longer be a building with stuff behind glass. It doesn't cut it anymore. That's the status quo for museums. You go in, you see old stuff behind a glass cabinet, you can't interact with it. All of the learning that takes place is just the information that's set next to the artifact in that case. You read it, it's very passive. The whole experience is very quiet. It's exactly, yep, please, it's hushed. It's quiet like you're in a library and there's no reason for that. So really, it's all about visibility. We've locally we've taken over the old library. I'm in the new library in this super fancy sound booth that I'm going to have to utilize more. Shout outs to Salmon's new library, but we utilize the old library space now. We put in a brand new exhibit that's all about the river, and Salmon is all about the river. Without the industry of the mining and without the industry of the logging and with the agricultural markets where they're at, constantly volatile, it's constantly a roller coaster in in the ag market. The river is going to be the constant that provides viability for our whole town. So as the museum, we need to link into that. We need to link into that part of our community. So we did. We put in a full-blown River of History exhibit that focuses only on the history of the river, how it was used first for commerce, the famous people that have lived and used the river for those items, and then how it transitioned post-World War II into being the tourist attraction that it is now. So it's all about visibility. If I can get an outreach center in that makes my archives and my databases more accessible to anybody, so you and your buddies from Maryland can come over and be like, look, you gotta check this thing out. That, like, this is Salmon, but I'm from North Fork, so we're gonna type North Fork into the museum computer, and every single article, photograph, audio, video resource that I have ever curated for North Fork is suddenly at your fingertips. That makes my museum viable. That's what it is, and that's the challenge that we're strategic planning. We got phase 1 was get the building. Phase 2 was install the big exhibit. Phase 3 is to put that outreach center in. Phase 4 is to get some traveling exhibits from the Smithsonian, Museum of the Rockies out of Boise, the Idaho State Historical Society out of Museum of the Rockies from Bozeman, the Idaho State Historical Society from Boise. Get those people involved on putting their artifacts on my main street to draw in populations of people and make them invested in that part of my community.
Absolutely, man. And two things on that. Tara has a great point: is older volunteers. We need younger volunteers, and younger volunteerism. That's a conversation I'm going to have in just a moment. Is volunteerism in general? But one of the things that you just touched on is I live out east now. I'm in Ohio now, so I guess I'm technically Midwest. Is you and I talked about this very shortly when we had our BS session. Is it's so interesting to me the lack of knowledge that people on the East Coast have about the state of Idaho.
Yeah.
Right? Idaho, that's part of Canada, right? Oh, no, that's in the Midwest. That's around Iowa, Ohio. Where is that? I'm like, yeah, no. So I drive Uber quite often. That's one of my outlets. And people ask, well, tell me about Idaho. Oh, man. Now just goes, bleh, I love my home state. And there is so much amazing history in the state of Idaho. And there's so much, I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea walked in front of my house that I grew up in, yep. Right? Literally, there was nowhere else for them to go but in front of my house. And having an opportunity for me to go to you via internet and look up these things and see these things and to be able to share my history and where I grew up, which I'm still very proud of, to other people, that would be amazing, man.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. It really is. And again, with volunteers, it's really, it is a huge subject. I volunteer for search and rescue here. It's one of those other ways I want to give back to the community that raised me, the community that I care very deeply about. So I'm a search and rescue member, right? You drive off one of those 3 roads, I'm the guy that's coming to get you. It's really important to me. Like, please don't hike up to Gold Bug Hot Springs ever, because it's just a bad plan. Look at a picture or something. Anyway, and that's actually Tara's out there now, Ben now, so she's much closer to the Gold Bug Hot Spring Rex than I am. But yeah, it's really interesting working for a nonprofit, which my museum is. You rely on volunteers. It's just the way nonprofits work, and And I've learned a lot, and you learn very quickly when you jump into that nonprofit pool. And I think there's many, many hours of education just waiting to be shared there of how do you make nonprofits work, and what can one person do to affect a nonprofit in a positive way if it is a nonprofit that is you care about. And it doesn't matter what it is. Is it your Lemhi County Humane Society? Is it your local dog shelter? Great. Figure out how to work the nonprofit, how to steer that boat in an effective manner, because the ineffectiveness that is inherent to using volunteers, and I say that in the nicest way, but when you cannot easily ask somebody to set a standard because they're a volunteer, and yelling at volunteers about accountability and best practices is really hard to do. And you can't. I mean, you love them. They're there, they're donating their time, they're passionate about it. But in the situation that I am in, I am having to go back and correct 30 years of volunteer work. And I'm not mad about it. It's my opportunity to get it done right. But it is a challenge, and volunteerism and nonprofits are a huge educational need. So there you go. That's something we can work
on. You're absolutely right. And it's all about setting the precedent, setting the expectations, and if the expectations have not been congruent with the vision and the mission, then there's an issue. You're just not going to be effective. But one of the things that I've learned and I've witnessed, and I don't know if it's the same in salmon now, but when we were kids, volunteering was not even an option. That was just part of life. That was just, and it wasn't that we were forced to do anything. It was, this is what you do. You go volunteer at the hospice. You go do your 4-H stuff. You go run floats in the parades. You go out to the old folks' homes. This is just what it was, and it was expected that you just did it. And it was so interesting to me, John, is as I got out of salmon and I got out in the world, was that volunteerism for our generation, for your generation, the tail end of my generation, and all of those current, volunteerism is not common. And that's been my experience. And in a lot of communities that I've been in, it's like pulling freaking teeth to get anyone to do anything that is outside of their work or their personal family. And I totally get the personal family aspect. I've got 2 young kids. You have 15. I get it. But at the same time, what we are not teaching our children is that there is a world outside of our personal home. There is a world outside of our personal sports program or swimming program or school or whatever it is. And without reaching out to and finding something, and you pointed it out, and I'll leave you with this. I think you touched on it perfectly, is what are you passionate about? What turns your crank? What gets you up in the morning? And can you invest, because it's an investment, can you invest time into that?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I'd love to keep talking about it, but yeah, it's super interesting to, again, Salmon, Idaho is so isolated. We're such a micro community where it's a very small sandbox and everything just spins in its own little circle here. Crystal said it's hard to have volunteers in a town where you need 2+ jobs to live. My wife runs a business for us. I work, and then I volunteer, and she's got things that she's passionate about. She volunteers for the animal shelter by giving the dogs grooms there before they're adopted to make them their chances higher to be adopted out. We don't charge the shelter anything to do that. It's an amazing way my wife uses her business to give back to the community. But yeah, you run out of people who are willing to say yes all the time. It's why in salmon, all of your firefighters are all of your volunteer paramedics and EMTs, and are all of your search and rescue guys like me. I'm a certified level 1 EMT, because if I show up out there and I'm first, I need to be able to help you. I want to be able to help whoever is in need. So yeah, it's like I'm out of time. I can't say yes to one more thing. I can't go do the bake sale for the FFA this weekend. I haven't seen my kids at all this week. So it's really interesting and a conversation worth having. And man, I'll come back anytime. You figure out what you want to talk about, and I'm here, brother, because this is my jam. I love collaboration. I love talking. Obviously, I don't know if we got to the body language part of what I'm going to do or what you do, but I I don't know, but I love being here, and thank you for having me on as a guest today.
Easy peasy, man. You're a certified EMT. I'm just certified. So moving forward, we'll call this good because you've got stuff to do. I've got stuff to do. This is going to be an ongoing conversation. And John, I'd love to just figure out a time that works best for both of us. And I think there's so much. If nothing else, I would love to just continue to have the conversation of our hometown and continue to figure out and work on things. Yes, my thing is my body language business, and I'm taking that forward. That can be a conversation for another day. But I also want to make sure that the museum, what can we as a global community do for small museums? How can we work on volunteerism? And then of course we are definitely going to have a conversation about your other passion, of course. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, here you go, and then I'm going to go take a nap until you're finished, and then, So, but, no, brother, I really appreciate your time.
I got all these props here. See, I came prepared.
There you go.
What we were talking about.
Well, neither did I. I was just gonna say, here we are, and then see where it went. And I love the conversation that we had, man, and I really appreciate that. And guys, I'm seeing some great conversation. I see you loaded the comments with your wife.
Yeah, I brought in my ringers. I know Teresa, watching. I know obviously Crystal's my great wife. Tara used to be in town here, used to be part of my writing group. I'd love to talk about that one time. How do small personal associations work towards a common goal? Both Teresa and Tara and my buddy Matt Lamont, who will chime in later. He's at work right now. There's a guy you got to catch up with. I'm putting you two in touch.
Yep.
I'm forcing that connection because I truly believe the two of you need to have a conversation. Matt's doing some really cool stuff, so here's a shout out to my buddy Matt Lamont, and hopefully you'll get to see him on here soon. That's my goal.
Good. Hey man, I'm game for whatever, brother. I really am. So yeah, and here's the seed I'm planting. Here's the seed I'm planting, and a challenge to you is you have a freaking treasure trove, a plethora of content to do these kind of videos on. And what better way to get... I couldn't even tell you what's in your museum anymore. Dude, I haven't been to that museum since I was like 8. So, and if I remember correctly, there is some of my family stuff somewhere in the archives there. I don't remember what it is, but I know there's something there, right? So that's my challenge to you is, man, video is so easy to do now. Hell, look at what we're doing right here. So there's my challenge. Jump in, pick one thing out of your everything that you do a 10-minute video on it.
All right, we'll see. We'll set some. We'll figure that out. That'll take a little later.
All right, man.
We'll figure it out, and we'll see you all later. Thanks, Dale.
I love you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Hold on, turn this off.